Have you ever had the feeling that a part of you was missing? Amira had. It wasn't just an ordinary feeling. She had dreams, vivid dreams, of laughter that wasn't hers alone, of a voice that matched hers but didn't belong to her. She imagined an invisible companion, one she couldn't see but could always feel. Aisatu herself had lived with an unanswered question. She had been so sure she was carrying twins. Even without a scan, she had felt the difference. Two kicks, two movements, two little beings growing inside her. But after a traumatic birth, the midwife had told her she had only given birth to one girl. And in her exhausted, grief-stricken state, she had accepted it. And so, for years, both mother and daughter lived with their doubts, never knowing just how close they were to the truth. Before that, many years ago, as the sun sets over the bustling streets of Dakar, where life moves with a rhythm of its own, in a modest maternity clinic, Aissatou, a resilient young woman, went into labor. The clinic, though underfunded, is run by hardworking nurses and midwives. But tragedy strikes. Her husband, Serigne, a fisherman, suffered a fatal accident on the shores just hours before his daughters are born. Grief-stricken, Aissatou faints from the stress and exhaustion and goes into labor. Aissatou gave birth to identical twin girls. Meanwhile, a desperate midwife, Madame Fama, had seized the moment. Struggling with debts and tempted by a lucrative offer, she steals one of the newborns and sells her to a wealthy but childless couple, Monsieur and Madame Diab, who live in a high-end part of the city. When Aissatou wakes, she is weak and grieving. The midwives tell her she only gave birth to one child. Though confused, she accepts their word. After all, she had never seen both babies together. Naming her daughter Amira, she leaves the clinic to start a new life alone. Meanwhile, the Diops quietly move abroad, taking Amira's twin, now named Fatou, far away from the truth. Strangely, within a week, the Diops relocate abroad, avoiding suspicion. Amira grows up in a modest home, selling fruits in the market with her mother. Despite hardship, she is brilliant, excelling in school with dreams of becoming a doctor. Aissatou never stops wondering about that feeling she had during pregnancy, the certainty of two. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, she watches Amira sleeping and feels an ache, a silent whisper that something or someone is missing. Amira has always felt it too. Since she was a child, she told her mother, "I feel like a part of me is missing, like I was meant to have a sister." Aissatou would smile sadly and remind her, "You are my only child." Across the city, in the gated estates of the wealthy, her twin sister Fatou lived a life of luxury. Raised as the only daughter of Monsieur and Madame Diop, she had everything: designer clothes, international vacations, and access to the best schools. Yet, she felt restless, as though something was always missing. And then came the whispers. It started small. "You remind me of someone I know. There's a girl in town who looks exactly like you. I swear I saw you in the market the other day, but you were dressed so differently." For Amira, it was the shopkeepers and market women who mentioned it. For Fatou, it was university classmates and strangers in restaurants. But every time they heard it, they dismissed it. "That's impossible," they both would say, shaking their heads with a laugh. Fate intervenes when Amira wins a scholarship to study at the prestigious University Sheikh Anta Diop, the same institution where Fatou is enrolled. On campus, the whispers never stopped. Amira would walk through the university library, only for someone to tap her shoulder and say, "Weren't you just at the cafe by the gate?" Confused, she would shake her head, only to hear the same thing again the next day. Fatou, meanwhile, would be shopping at an upscale boutique when a classmate would laugh and say, "I swear I just saw you walking near the market in Sandaga and you looked so different." The comments were frequent, relentless. Friends, professors, and even strangers mentioned seeing their replica all over the city. At first, they dismissed it as coincidence, But deep down, both girls began to wonder, was there something more to these strange encounters? Both Amira and Fatu had always felt something strange, something they could never quite explain. As children, they both had recurring dreams, dreams of laughter that wasn't theirs alone, of a shadowy figure always just out of reach. It was like a memory they didn't fully understand, like a song half remembered. For Amira, the strange feeling only deepened as she grew older. The whispers on campus, the puzzled looks from classmates, and the frequent, "I just saw you" comments became impossible to ignore. She told her mother about it. "Mama, people keep saying they've seen me in places I've never been. They say I have a twin, but I've never met her." Aisatu listened, a familiar unease creeping over her, but she clung to what she had always believed. Amira was her only child. "People see what they want to see, my child. Maybe it's just a strange coincidence." But deep down, Amira wasn't so sure anymore. At the end of their first semester at the university, a student, amused by the uncanny resemblance between the two girls, had managed to snap a picture of both of them in different locations on the same day. Amira in her simple dress, carrying books, and Fatu stepping out of a luxury car. They posted the photo online with the caption, "Sisters or not, what do you think?" The picture went viral within hours. By evening, hundreds of people had commented, some even claiming they knew both girls personally. And when Amira saw it, she froze. Her heart pounded in her chest as she stared at the screen. The girl in the picture was her, but not her. The same face, the same eyes, but an entirely different life. She ran home, the phone clutched tightly in her hands. She ran to her mother. "Mama, look at this. Look at her. She looks just like me." Aisatu's hands trembled as she took the phone, her breath caught in her throat. There it was, the face she had always known belonged to two, but still, doubt lingered. I, I don't know, my child. I only ever saw you. They told me you were alone." But Amira wouldn't let it go. She had spent her whole life feeling this missing piece, and now, for the first time, she had proof. Determined, Aisatu and Amira embark on her own investigation, tracking down the now retired midwife. Confronted, Madame Fama breaks down, confessing her crime and begging for forgiveness. Determined, Amira and Aisatu hurried to the university, where they knew Fatu studied. They searched the busy courtyards, stopping students and showing them a picture from the viral post. "Have you seen this girl?" One student nodded. "Oh, that's Fatu Diop. She's usually at the library or the student cafe." Their footsteps were quick, their hearts pounding. All these years, would she recognize her? Would Fatu believe them? At last, they spotted her. Fatu was sitting alone on a shaded bench, scrolling through her phone. The sight of her sent shockwaves through Aisatu's body. Even from a distance, there was no doubt. The same posture, the same way she twirled her bracelet absent-mindedly, just like Amira, and then the birthmark. Aisatu let out a gasp. It was there, just beneath Fatu's lips, the same mark Amira had. Tears welled in her eyes as she grabbed Amira's hand. "That's her. That's my baby." Amira's heart raced. She felt like she was standing at the edge of something life-changing. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. "Fatu?" Fatu looked up, her brow furrowing as she took in the two strangers before her. And in that moment, everything changed. The young woman standing in front of her was familiar, too familiar. Her heart skipped a beat. The girl looked exactly like her. Fatu slowly stood, staring at Amira as if looking into a mirror. Her eyes flickered to Aisatu, a woman whose tear-streaked face held emotions Fatu couldn't quite understand. "Who are you?" she asked cautiously, her voice tinged with unease. Amira took a shaky breath. "My name is Amira, and we need to talk." Fatu frowned. "Why?" Aisatu, who had been silent until now, stepped forward, her hands trembling. Because, my daughter, you were stolen from me. Fatu's world tilted. What? She whispered, shaking her head. Number that's impossible. She let out a nervous laugh, but the weight of their expressions made her uneasy. Amira pulled out her phone, opening the viral post. People have been saying for weeks that we look alike. That's not a coincidence, Fatu. We are twins. You were stolen at birth. Fatu scoffed, taking a step back. No, 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 this is crazy. I don't even know you. Aisatu's voice broke. But I know you, my love. I have always known. She wiped her tears, struggling to stay composed. When I was pregnant, I knew I was carrying two babies. The midwife stole you. We have proof. Fatu's head spun. This had to be a mistake. Her parents would never lie to her, would they? She turned and ran. Amira and Aisatu followed her, pushing past confused students. Fatu ran straight to the parking lot, fumbling for her phone, ready to call her mother. This had to be a lie. It had to be. Before she could dial, Aisatu's voice rang out. Fatu, wait. There's proof. There's something I need to show you. Fatu turned around, breathing heavily. Aisatu pointed to her own chin, then gestured toward Amira. Fatu's fingers instinctively touched her birthmark, the same one Amira had. Her hands started shaking. No, she whispered. Amira swallowed hard. Do you still dream about her? The girl you never met? Fatu's breath caught, because she did. She had always dreamed of a girl who looked like her but wasn't her, a girl she could never find. And now, here she was, right in front of her. Fatu's mind raced. She had to hear the truth from her parents. Without another word, she stormed into her car and drove straight home, Aisatu and Amira trailing behind in a taxi. The Diops's grand estate loomed ahead, its golden gates gleaming under the Dakar sun. The guards recognized Fatu and let her in, but when they saw Amira and Aisatu, they hesitated. Fatu turned around, her voice sharp. Let them in. The guards exchanged glances but obeyed. Inside, Fatu burst into the elegant living room, where Madame Diop was sipping tea while Monsieur Diop read the newspaper. Is it true? Fatu demanded. Madame Diop set down her cup, startled. What? Am I stolen? Fatu's voice cracked. Am I even your daughter? Madame Diop's face drained of color. Monsieur Diop lowered his newspaper. His silence was deafening. Aissatou stepped forward, gripping her hands together. We already know the truth. Fatu turned to her parents, waiting, begging for them to deny it. But Madame Diop burst into tears. We never meant to hurt you, she sobbed. We just wanted a child. We thought we were saving you. Monsieur Diop finally spoke, his voice heavy with guilt. We were told you had been abandoned. We didn't know the full story. Aissatou gasped, her grief turning into anger. Lies! You knew she wasn't yours. You paid for her. Fatu's body trembled. Everything she had known, her entire life, was built on a lie. She turned to Aissatou and Amira, her real family, tears brimming in her eyes. I don't know who I am anymore. Aissatou reached for her, her mother's heart aching. You are my daughter, and no matter what happens, you always will be. Fatu hesitated. Then, for the first time, she let Aissatou hold her. And in that moment, despite all the pain, the truth had finally come home. The Diops apologize, offering financial restitution, but Aissatou refuses their money. However, they all agree that both girls deserve a future, and they decide to fund Amira and Fatu's education together. Madame Fama, the midwife, publicly seeks forgiveness, and though Aissatou forgives her, she ensures that justice is served. Fatu and Amira slowly rebuild their bond, learning to navigate their shared pain together. For the first time, neither of the girls feels incomplete, because now at last they are whole.